What up, crew? Today we're going to read a story called A, Lincoln, and Me. The A stands for Abraham, Abe. Abe Lincoln, our 16th president. You can find him on a penny, a shiny penny made of copper like this one. And maybe you have a penny at your house, or even a $5 bill, and you can find old Abe on it. So, let's take a look. There are 365 birthdays, one for every day of the year, and I have the same one as Abraham Lincoln, February 12th, a day of winter when we both were born. When February comes, we talk a lot about Abraham Lincoln in our class. My teacher, Mrs. Giff, hangs 28 pictures of Lincoln along the hall, and we'll all remember him when we get a day off of school for President's Day. Mrs. Giff says, we're a lot alike, old Abraham Lincoln and me. She says I'm as skinny as a beanpole and tall for my age, just like Abraham was when he started reading books. Sometimes I have big, clumsy hands and big, clumsy feet, and I never even saw that wet paint sign until it was too late. Big butterfingers, yells Holly in her extra loud voice. Big butterfeet, yells Carlos, and he runs to tell his friends. Now, was that very nice? Instead of lending a helping hand, they made fun of him for falling. Instead of helping him clean up, they just ran off to tell other people. Not very kind or champion at all. Big hands, I say, and I look down at mine. Lincoln had big hands too. Strong hands, says my teacher. Strong enough to split rails for a fence. Strong enough to wrestle 2 men at a time, and strong enough to pull 36 states back together after the Civil War. I think about all those different states like pieces in a puzzle. Some joined the North, some joined the South, some states where everyone was free and equal, and some states where some folks were not. Slavery was a terrible, terrible thing. Big hands and a big heart, says Mrs. Giff as we mop up the mess together. Later I hear her tell James and Trish in our class, half a nation once called Lincoln many names, like gorilla, baboon, and backwoods hick. That wasn't very nice either. At recess, Mrs. Giff tells us that people laughed at Lincoln's frontier ways, at his hair that wouldn't comb straight, at his long, lanky legs. People figured he wouldn't know how to be a president if he didn't have fancy manners and if he had grown up poor. And that's not true at all. You can do anything you want to be. A. Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln has his very own shelf in our school library. There's a lot to say about this man who had big hands and big feet, who was tall for his age, just like me. For starters, he didn't even like to be called Abe that much, so I just called him A. Lincoln, the same as his signature in all those books. Just that first letter. There is A. Lincoln when I'm not even looking on the shiny pennies that jingle in my pocket. He doesn't look like somebody who would walk barefoot to school. He doesn't look like somebody whose mother couldn't read or write. He just looks like himself. He's on pennies today because he's a hero, because he talked in words that everybody could understand, because he told all the slaves, now you are free. I think about Lincoln when I'm the line leader at school. I think about Lincoln when I'm reading good books and I don't want them to end. And I think about Lincoln when I'm singing in the back row, a head above my friends, because he's so much taller than them. I think about Lincoln when I'm out on the playground, telling funny jokes and making other kids laugh. And I know when I'm running from first base to home plate, my team is glad that my legs are long and my feet are big to push me along. On the way home from school, I see A. Lincoln standing tall and bronze in the afternoon sun. Big buttons on his coat, big words in his heart, big hands and big feet like mine. So this statue is a three-dimensional sculpture in his hometown. But I wasn't born in the backwoods of Kentucky. And my house in the city doesn't have a dirt floor like his log cabin. It has a lot of windows. A. Lincoln's log cabin only had one. That's a big difference. When I do my homework, I borrow some chalk from my brother Sam. Then I write out numbers on the back of a shovel the way A. Lincoln did arithmetic long ago. Listen, nobody can be another Abe Lincoln. That's what my brother Sam says, when I tape Lincoln's signature just above my bed. But his birthday's mine too, marked on calendars for all to see, February 12th, a day of winter to celebrate Lincoln and me. So So I don't mind that I'm as skinny as a beanpole and tall for my age. Someday when Dad takes Sam and me to Washington, D.C., there's only one person I want to see. I won't listen when my brother points to Lincoln's shoes and says, "They're huge." Instead, I'll try to read all those words high on the wall above my father's head. They're long and look important, words that came from that very large hand. Sometimes I wish he were really sitting in there, working on the problems of the country, saying big things with his words as he did long ago. So yeah, the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., a huge statue and monument to A. Lincoln. My brother Sam is right about one thing. Nobody can be another Abraham Lincoln. But then I figure nobody can be another me either. So be happy and proud of who you are, and you can be anything you want to be, even President of the United States, just like A. Lincoln. So I hope you learned a little bit more about him and it helps inspire your next project. Adios, amigos.